Welcome to episode 200 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is coming in sleep-deprived today, John Scott Sloat.
200.
200.
Yeah. That's a lot of episodes.
That's a lot of episodes.
We've been doing this weekly for a long, long time.
Since the first week of January 2020. This is a pre-COVID show.
This is a pre-John being married show.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We might circle back to that later in the show. We have a good show planned for you, I think.
What did we do for 100? Do you remember?
I don't really remember. I didn't go back and look at the archives, so I don't know.
I have no clue.
I think it was probably like, what was your favorite this and what was your favorite that and that kind of stuff. You know,
we do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yes, we do. Well, we've got a big show today. Let me do the promo here, or the promo. The what are we called?
Advertisements.
Where are you?
The rundown.
The rundown.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can find us on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. And we would love for you to leave a review and a 5-star rating on whatever platform you access the show. And, John, one of the things that we're rolling out for episode 200 is the new podcast logo.
Yeah, we got that new podcast logo. I mean, really, you got the new podcast logo. Let's be real. I just gave my stamp of approval.
Yeah.
But yeah, looks good. Fresh update.
Yes.
Looks nice.
Yes. Shout out to Carolyn in Winona Lake for her help with that.
Yes,
so,
thank you very much.
Yeah, she does a great job. So, and she was very excited to do it. She was eager to do it when I approached her. So that's always fun when you get to ask someone, would you be willing to do this? And they say like, oh yeah, that'd be fun. Okay. So if you'd like to give us feedback on what you think of the new logo, you're welcome to do that. But
only positive feedback. We're really not interested in criticism whatsoever.
No, if you don't like it, keep your thoughts to yourself. So, all right, John, big show today. So we should probably get moving right into the sports. You ready to talk sports?
Sure.
All right, John, let's start our sports segment with college football.
Sweet.
I know you were traveling end of last week, beginning of the weekend, and so I guess you probably didn't catch much, if any, college football action.
No, very little. I was in a restaurant and saw the end of the Notre Dame game.
Okay, well.
I put game in quotes there.
I mean, the end of that game was probably midway through the first quarter, really.
Yeah.
But so probably big stories here. Ohio State goes on the road and beats Wisconsin 24-10.
It's a good win for them.
It is. Their offense, well.
Not as convincing as you would have liked.
Should have been bigger. Kyle McCord played poorly in the first half. 3 turnovers in the first half. That's not good.
No.
Two bad picks and 1 fumble on a 4th down play where he got sacked and fumbled. So, I mean, that's not quite the same as, fumbling on 2nd down. But anyway, a very poor performance for him. He did rally in the second half. Marvin Harrison Jr. is amazing.
Yeah, they're talking about him being a top 10 pick.
He should be a top 3 to 4 pick.
Who do you think he goes to? Sometimes that's a curse, though. Sometimes being that high of a pick is a big curse.
I don't know. Well, look, for a receiver, what matters is who's throwing the ball to you.
Yeah.
Like, if
you
you
don't
don't
go to Houston could be in that mix.
It could be. The Bears, as things stand now, they would have the 1st and the 3rd pick. So,
yeah.
I mean,
Carolina's going to be right there too.
Yeah. But the biggest thing offensively for Ohio State, besides Marvin Harrison being amazing again, is TreVeyon Henderson is back. Their top running back, and he made a huge difference on the ground.
Nice.
So that was important. Defense played lights out, very impressive. But Yeah. The quarterback has to get better for Ohio State, or they will not beat Michigan. If they play like that, they will get stomped by Michigan, unfortunately. The big news out of the weekend, we'll get to the sort of off the field stuff in a moment, but Kansas upset Oklahoma. First time since like 1996, 97 that they beat Oklahoma.
38-33.
And that's, it's a rivalry only in the sense that those schools are like, they don't like each other, but it's not been a competitive rivalry.
Yeah.
Like in basketball, it's more of a rivalry.
Mm-hmm. Although it's the other way around.
Right.
Really.
Then it's more, but that's more even handed. Like Oklahoma's beaten Kansas.
Yeah. I mean, they have
in the last
Buddy Hield, right, went there?
Yeah. So, and the fact that Oklahoma's moving to the SEC means that they may not play again for a while.
Yeah.
So, and then of course you had the storm the field and tear down the goalposts, and they carried them out of the stadium
and threw them in a lake.
And threw them in a lake.
Yeah. Classic.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
On a serious note, I will say they're going to have to do something to stop the storming the field and storming the court things. It's only a matter of time before something very bad happens. Like a fan gets in the face of an opposing player and the opposing player takes a swing at him, starts a fight, something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're like when USC lost to Utah, I think it was, there was a picture of some idiot fan like runs up next to Caleb Williams, the quarterback from USC, and like does a, kind of selfie-ish thing with him and is like just talking like total smack to the guy. Like it's amazing to me it hasn't happened yet that you get these athletes who are, they're intense, they're in the heat of the battle,
fired up on a lot of adrenaline,
and then all of a sudden this massive crowd who hates you is surrounding you and taunting you. How has it not happened yet that one of these guys has like taken a swing at a fan?
Yeah.
So anyway, and then of course the scandal off the field with the University of Michigan.
Heard the NCAA was on campus last week.
They were.
Interesting timing.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Looking into some things. So, look, there's a lot of details emerging still. Even by the time this drops, another day will have passed, and so more stuff will probably come out. But there's some wild accusations. Like there's stuff that looks like this is pretty well established, and then there's stuff that you're like, that. But one of the most significant ones out there is that Michigan hacked into Ohio State's cloud server to get practice footage. That a staffer on the Michigan team broke. Like
really?
Yes,
I hadn't heard that. That qualifies for big if true.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm saying that as that's not been established. That's not. But I mean, Michigan did have a staffer who was who's being accused of computer crimes. And I think that's kind of how this all kind of developed is the FBI was brought in to investigate stuff this guy did on his computer.
I'm really excited for the 30 for 30 in
it's going to be
15
amazing.
Years. Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. Let's move on to the NFL.
Okay.
Let's talk about your beloved Jets.
The Jets won their third game in a row.
And set back offensive football for a good 20 years?
Well, I would say the Jets and more so the Giants.
Together. There was a team effort.
It was a team effort to not have good offense. I think the Jets had a better offense than the Giants.
Yeah.
The Giants threw for -8 passing yards.
Yes. Now, in the NFL stats, they take sack yardage away from passing yardage. I believe that's how they get
I'm not totally sure.
Because in the college football, they take it from the rushing. So it's a difference in how they keep stats. In the NFL, I'm pretty sure sack yardage comes out of your passing yardage.
No, I did not know that.
I think that's the case.
Now, Saquon Barkley had a very good day. My favorite piece of information from the day is Saquon Barkley grew up in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know his dad's a big Jets fan, has season tickets. Walked out of the stadium with his father Dad is decked out in Jets gear, head to toe.
Okay.
Jets gear.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
That's a statement.
That's wild. Like, your son,
I know.
Even I'm going like, if my kid played for the Giants, I would wear Giants stuff. Yeah. I would.
I mean, if my kid played for Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
It'd kill you, but you'd do it. Wouldn't you?
I just don't think he would. I don't think either of my kids would.
That's not the question.
I raised them better, John.
That's not the question.
I don't know, man. That's tough. Anyway,
but Jets
in overtime on a field goal.
In overtime on a field goal, Zach Wilson seems to be really good at in like the 2-minute situation, which is great.
Yeah, little controversy though in that game.
You mean the spiked football?
Yeah.
I mean, they just got up to the line real quick. The ref came in and tapped the ball. I mean, I think it was a smart hustle play by the Jets.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the rules specifically state in that, but I mean, the official did come in and touch the ball in essence to confirm, yes, that's the spot.
Yeah.
So anyway. And Garrett Wilson, despite the lack of offense, I think he had 7 catches for like 100 yards.
Yeah, they're targeting him at least 15 times a game. Like that's clearly the plan, and I think that's the right move.
Yeah.
Get him the ball no matter what. I mean, they're running end arounds for him. They're doing all sorts of stuff. Just put the ball in his hands, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, he is your most dynamic offensive player.
Between him and Breece Hall, that's our offense. Get the ball in each of their hands and let them just go nuts.
And I think we also have to mention, I'm sure you saw the footage of Aaron Rodgers just lightly, just sort of casually dropping back and throwing passes.
Yeah. Weird stuff.
I don't know what sort of voodoo magic that dude is on. But
Jets also went down to their third center of the game. People kept getting injured. Jets popped their third Achilles this season.
Man,
we're averaging one every other game.
Have all of them been at home?
I don't know where Elijah Vera Tucker. I think that might have been against Denver. He popped his Achilles, so that would have been in Denver.
Okay, because if you start seeing that at home, you start to wonder: is it a turf-related issue? Right?
Yes, and people think. I mean, MetLife is known for its terrible turf.
It's embarrassing that New York does not have a better stadium than that. It really is.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know whose fault that is?
Is it the Giants?
Nope.
I don't know.
James Dolan.
It all comes back to James Dolan.
James Dolan, owner of the Knicks.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes. The Jets were going to build a stadium on the west side of Manhattan in the old train yard, and James Dolan shut it down.
Okay.
And it was they were going to host I believe it was the 2010 Olympics there. And James Dolan shut it down.
Okay.
2010, 2012, something like that. Whenever the Olympics were.
It'd be 12.
Yeah, because we had 2020 Olympics, right?
Yep.
Or we were supposed to at least.
Yeah, that's right. The NFL's weird, John. Weird results. Like the Broncos beating the Chiefs. That doesn't make sense.
Didn't what's his name? Patrick Mahomes have the flu though, and
then the Bengals have clearly turned it around.
Yeah,
and that's in part because Joe Burrow is getting healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they beat the 49ers in San Francisco,
and San Francisco's now lost 3 in a row.
Yeah,
Browns, Vikings, Bengals.
Browns lost last minute to the Seahawks out in Seattle.
Yep.
Jackson Smith and Jigba catching the touchdown pass that won the game with like 40-ish seconds left. So, anything else quickly on the NFL?
Jets on Monday night next week.
Okay.
Jets Chargers.
I don't know what to predict at that point. I mean,
Jets have 4 primetime games in a row coming up, I believe.
Yeah, though. Look, they've been better than I expected with Zach Wilson. They've managed to survive.
Yeah.
But, I mean, all those games are planned out before the season. So they're thinking, Aaron Rodgers. We're going to get Aaron Rodgers in this. As opposed to your favorite Mormon. So we should probably mention quickly World Series is underway.
Game apiece.
Yeah. Have you watched any of this?
Yep. I watched them on the plane.
Okay. I have not. I just know they split the first 2 games. I have to imagine that the TV ratings are terrible for this.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. There will be a game tonight before we
Monday night. So this drops Tuesday. So
this
that
drops
game
Tuesday,
will be,
Monday night before this drops.
Yeah. So, anything else on sports?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, John. The time has come.
This is a big one.
This is a
big moment,
monumental moment in the history of the Various and Sundry podcast. We have been teasing that this is going to be a big deal, and I think we're going to deliver here.
Yeah. I think so.
I mean, I even said to my Greek class, we have got a guest, and they started guessing people. Like, who are you having on the show?
Who did they guess?
Well, they guessed a couple of professors here, and then one of them actually got it right, but I didn't let them know they got it right.
Wow!
But they are legitimately talking about having a listen party for when the episode drops.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, well, here it is. Here's the monumental moment. We have had guests in the past. I think we've had probably 6 or 7 probably by now.
Yeah, that's probably, if you count like our
Super Bowl correspondent,
Final Four correspondent, the sub-in from your son when he did sports that one time. If you count him, and then like our authors guest, I think that gets us there.
And an uninvited guest, Gabe Tribbett.
Oh yeah, that's right. He burst in through the door one time
into the middle of recording,
and then we did the pod takeover of the Grace Story podcast.
That's right.
And we had a guest on that as well.
We did. So. But all of that was building up to this monumental moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 guests in the studio. 2! And they are our lovely wives. We are joined by Mrs. Various and Sundry today, right? Essentially?
I suppose so, if they both hold that title.
I guess so. Yeah. So I will start with my beloved wife. Kate, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
First of all, I'm glad you didn't say our various and sundry wives. I'm not sure that would have been the most positive intro.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would also like to tell the audience the look of nervousness on the faces of our husbands is delightful. So
it's just unknowns, Kate.
It's just I know. Matt's probably more. Matt's more nervous than you are. Let's be honest.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, you're more nervous for Matt than you are.
Yes.
Yeah. So, my name is Kate Harmon. I assume I don't have to middle name myself.
Yeah, please middle name yourself. If you
my correct name, then. Oh, I don't really like my middle name. Well, we'll go for it. Being vulnerable here.
Okay.
All right.
It's just the 4 of us.
My given name is Catherine Jean Hudson Harmon. Catherine spelled Kathryn for all of you out there who grew up with names that you had to spell constantly. So did I. It's been shortened to Kate. And yes, if you picked up on my maiden name there, Matt likes to say I was the original Kate Hudson.
Yeah.
So I am obviously the wife of Matt and the mother of Jonathan Thomas Harmon.
Wow.
He's going to hate me. He's going to hate me for that.
He is not going to like that.
Jacob Matthew Harmon, 2 delightful young men.
Yeah.
And
we're old.
We're old. Yeah. I had babies young.
Yeah.
And let's see. I teach English, high school English, at Lakeland Christian Academy, where I've taught. This is my 16th year as a teacher there, and I don't know if there's anything else you want me to tell about myself.
I think that's a good start.
I think that's a good start. I want to know what Andrea's middle name is.
and this is my wife, Andrea Sloat.
All right.
Hey, babe.
Hi. Yes, so I am Andrea Nicole Sloat, since we're sharing our full names. I am John's wife. I am a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for 7 years now. And I've been married to John for 3.5 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years this month.
Yeah, we got married in 2020.
So this podcast is older than your marriage.
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess it always will be.
Well, until
we take it out back like an Old Yeller, this bad boy.
Put it out of its misery. Yes.
Old Yeller. I like the literary reference there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Points from the English teacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that'll be our summer read, Old Yeller.
I don't think you want to do that to people.
No, probably not. Probably not. All right. So now I think we should say that of our two spouses, one of them has been, shall we say, proactively lobbying to get onto the show.
Andrea.
Since before the show existed.
and another, let's just say, was not as naturally eager to join the show, but has graciously agreed to.
I think that's a fair assessment.
I agree.
To join us. So we are grateful for that.
You had to drag me out.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the focus of this episode is going to be on getting to know our wives here. So we've got some questions.
As well as it'll be podcast related. We'll talk
sure.
about the podcast in the midst of some of those questions.
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's start with this one related to the podcast. Have you ever been in public with your husband when he was recognized for being on the pod?
Kate went first last time, so I'll go first this time. My answer is no. That has never happened. John is frequently recognized in public, but not for the podcast. He is recognized because he works at Grace, and many current students and past students know him. So I think we were at Midway Airport maybe a month ago, and there were some students that ran up and said hello. So he's constantly being recognized, but I don't think it's ever been for the podcast. At least not with me.
And that was like 5 a.m.
Yes.
We were like rolling through Midway Airport at 5 a.m.
Yes.
And a couple of students shouted my name, former students shouted my name as they're getting ready for their flight to Oklahoma City.
Okay.
That's impressive at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
These college students are used to being asleep.
Well, is that an alum?
It's an alum,
okay.
And one of them is one's just out of med school and doing residency. So I think they're used to zero sleep and being up early and those sorts of things. And I think they felt like they had the capability of doing that at 5 a.m.
Okay. Yeah. Kate, what about you?
The only place that I ever go where Matt is recognized for the podcast would have to be Grace Polaris Church in Columbus, which I think has a faithful listenership, which means at least 2 of their pastors, I think, are currently regular listeners and often come up and mention the pod or what they would have liked him to say or not. That's the only time that's ever happened.
Who are the 2? Can you name positions? They're at Polaris Grace.
You're totally putting me on the spot now.
Lead pastor.
Zach in Ohio.
Yeah, Zach in Ohio, and I know Danny.
Danny was
Ohio,
the other one. Yes,
okay.
Danny from Ohio.
I think Parker now, who is a resident there,
That's right.
is a regular listener as well.
Yes, I believe I've fed Parker, and he listens to the podcast.
Yes.
And I think Pastor Dave there dips in and out. Youth pastor at that church. I think dips in and out of the podcast.
Okay. Well, that's the, to be honest, sometimes I ask if people listen to the podcast, and I'm disappointed to hear that they don't. And I have to give a sales pitch, which I'm pretty good at. Various and Sundry, robot vacuums. There's lots.
These are the things you plug in life.
These are the things I plug in life. Books.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I asked that question knowing that it would
get a no.
Get a no.
Okay.
It wasn't a total no.
Well, yeah, it basically was.
You want to get recognized? Go with Doc to the Gospel
Coalition. That's what I heard.
My goodness.
He even got. Did he tell the story in the pod that he got asked to take a selfie? He had his first selfie request. He probably didn't share that, but I'll let the inside scoop on that. Yeah.
I'm waiting for somebody.
I said, please tell me that person was under 45 or whatever.
I'm waiting for somebody to hey, would you sign like my back or something? I'm waiting for that.
A body part?
Yeah,
that's when you've really arrived.
Would you sign my cast or my arm? Or
I will not be signing body parts. Okay. That's where I draw the line. Books, yes.
What if I
body
asked,
parts,
Matt?
no.
What if I asked?
Okay.
That was what he was afraid of right there.
Moving on. Yep. Here we go. Now you know what we deal with here. So, I mean, we don't get recognized a ton, but we have had a couple of moments where...
Yeah, there was one last week.
Yeah, why don't you share that story last week?
So I subbed for you in Greek, and so I taught, had fun with your class, had to put them in their place a couple of times.
Yeah, they're a bit rowdy at times.
At 8 a.m. of all times.
But they're fun. I really enjoyed them.
They're listening to this. That's why you said that.
I would say that even if they weren't.
But was talking to one of the students afterwards, and then you walked up because you were teaching another class, I believe.
Yeah.
And so this guy and I were chatting, and then you came up and we started talking about the pod, and this guy goes, "Oh, you're the other voice."
That's right.
Which has happened at church before as well.
Yes. Yeah, you're the other voice.
I'm the other voice.
Yeah.
Which that's a great role.
Yeah.
I'm fine with being the other voice.
Why not? So in the interest of continuing to get to know our spouses here, did we say we were going to do this one about the biggest accomplishment? Are we good with that? Yeah. Okay. So outside of obviously marrying us, I mean that's a
given.
You hit the jackpot.
What is your biggest accomplishment in life, or one of them? You don't have to feel the pressure of like this is the biggest one, but like what are some big accomplishments from your life that we can celebrate?
Do you want me to go first?
You should go first. We'll alternate.
Okay. My sons would say I make a really good sandwich. But in all seriousness, and I have a few caveats to this. Caveats. That's how you say that word. I would say, let me give the caveat. Well, I would say my two sons. And the caveats are, obviously, I believe that it is God's grace alone that saves us and equips us to do the hard task of mothering. And I have a great partner in that. I can't imagine raising children without Matt at my side. He is the rock and the wisdom, and I am the provider of food and freak out. And
you are much more than that.
But I would say that I had like 4 goals for my children. I wanted them to obviously love the Lord and follow him faithfully. I wanted him to love the church. I wanted them to love each other and value our family. And I wanted them to love Ohio State football. And it took some blood, sweat, and tears, some more than others. But I think all 4 of those things are true, and there is no greater joy than watching them walk faithfully with the Lord and being involved in their local church and having fun together, loving each other. And if you haven't picked up on it, our family really enjoys watching Ohio State football together. And
that's breaking news on the podcast.
Yeah, that's breaking
Play
news.
The music.
I'm sure you probably told this, but one required spankings to get him there. But
to Ohio State football, not the church, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe both?
To Ohio State
a little
football.
bit, yeah, maybe both. But I say this, and in part, I just want to encourage young mothers, the way, obviously, that none of this accomplishment was without the Lord's help, and a lot of dark days, hard days, and consistency and discipline, and did not always do that perfectly by any means. And but keep in the good work of raising children, and it will be the joy of your elder years, I say, as an older lady. And I'm just thankful for my boys.
Yeah. And I'll just add in before Andrea jumps in. One of the fun things about being able to raise our boys in the context that we do is they get to be around young men, either college students or seminary students, who love the Lord and are good role models for them and get involved in their lives and show an interest. And John obviously is one of those guys who's had a significant role in our boys' lives, and they look up to John and very much I think to some degree kind of think of you as a kind of older brother in some ways. You're not old enough to be their dad, obviously, but you're an older brother.
Yeah, brother / uncle.
Yeah,
in some ways.
Yeah,
that's probably
sort of weird mix.
Yeah.
It again, another free motherly tip here, but Matt and I often reflect on the best thing we did as parents was put them around godly men, young men older than them, and we have a whole list of Zach from Ohio, Gabe from Indiana,
Nate from
Ohio. He added an interesting dynamic, yes. Who still, it's fun to see your boy. This is way off topic. It's fun to see your boys now that they're young. They're the age of what these young men were when they were in our home and around them, and they still call them and seek them out. So we had a lot of help, is all I'm saying. Moms out there, get some help.
Okay. All right. Andrea, how about you?
Well, I definitely should have gone first on this question because my answer isn't half as good as Kate's. But the first thing that came to my mind is a year ago I got board certified, and that was a big accomplishment for me. But that was, I think, a big accomplishment for both John and I because John had to pick up the slack on a lot of cleaning and cooking while I was studying for that for about a year. So it was definitely a joint accomplishment, but I really appreciated his support during that.
I remember she would study on vacation for about, how many hours a day on vacation?
Maybe 3 or 4.
3 or 4 hours a day on vacation.
Yeah.
I heard there were a lot of flashcards involved.
Probably
do you have
over
the picture
1,000.
on your phone? I know this is an audio medium.
I think I still do somewhere.
But maybe after we'll show the picture. But we put all the flashcards in a room stacked up.
Wow.
But I remember going to security, and she would put them in her carry-on so she could study on the plane. And I remember security stopping us because she had too many flashcards, and it set off the X-ray because they're like, we don't know what that is.
She clearly looks like a sketchy woman with the
Yes.
flashcards. You got to watch out for those.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was – I remember the duration of the time you studied for that, talking with John regularly about that. And then when you'd taken the exam, being excited and eagerly waiting the results. And so that is a significant accomplishment for sure. All right, a little lighter question here. What's a talent you wish you had but didn't, but don't have? Like, I guess we're back to you going first, Andrea.
I would say a talent I wish I had was being a good singer. I am not a good singer, but I am amazed by people who can sing well. So I wish I had that talent.
So you won't be joining our worship team as a vocalist?
I don't think anyone would want that. I would not wish that upon our congregation.
Violin player, though.
Ooh.
Yeah.
A long time ago, yes.
and maybe a piano player. I mean,
we know she has a piano.
We do own a piano.
Yes.
That's true. I have one.
Yes. Okay. Kate, what about you?
Well, this might become a surprise to your audience, but we have a very athletic family. Both our boys were involved in lots of sports, and Matt was involved in lots of sports. There's a lot of good banter about that in our household and competition in our household, and I'm the one that's never included in that. Not that I didn't play sports in high school. I had an illustrious career as the unsung hero on the Westwood High School ski team.
Yeah.
A little bit of volleyball in there, but let's be honest, I was not a good athlete. And I wish I'd played basketball. I wish I was good at basketball because I have watched a lot of basketball over the years, and I have listened to a lot of basketball conversation, all of which I enjoy and wish that I had some of my own stories to share.
Yeah. Though I think you sell yourself a little bit short on the athletic ability, but yes.
I thought my game was pickleball until I ended up like flat on the gym floor and miserably in pain and thought, this is the game of old people and I can't even play it well.
Yeah. Well, it's not because you lack competitiveness.
No.
You are
enthusiasm, I imagine.
Yes, gusto. Yeah. You are the most competitive person in our family.
You think?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Wow.
All right, Andrea, what about you?
Oh,
What she said.
Oh, I'm sorry. You went first. That's right. My bad.
She's going to sing and I'm going to play in the WNBA.
There you go. All right. So has anyone ever asked you about or questioned you about something that we said on the podcast? We're starting with you, Kate.
No, I can't remember off the top of my head. I mean, some have been amused about it and laughed about things that have been said, or they want to share that they listened, obviously. But I can't think of anything. Andrea, do you have a good answer for that?
I do. I have a good answer for this one. So I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, you guys made a March Madness bracket. And you invited your listeners to make brackets as well and submit them.
Yeah.
And on one of your episodes, Matt said something to the effect of, wow, this bracket submitted by David is really good. Do we know a David? And John says, no, I don't think I know any Davids. Well, David is my father. And I think you guys might already know this, but he's probably one of your most consistent listeners. Both of my parents are. They're very committed to this podcast. So the day that episode dropped, I had not listened to it, but my dad called me and he said, the next time you talk to your husband, can you please remind him that he knows a David and it's his father-in-law?
That's bad.
And
does he go by David?
He normally goes by Dave.
That's what I thought.
And I think that was the cause of the confusion.
That was absolutely the cause of the confusion.
I'm trying to help.
That's his defense.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, like most men who go by Dave, his name is actually David.
Right.
So I did let John know that he said that, and John was like, "Oh, but he usually goes by Dave." I had no idea. So that was a good story.
Okay. All right. I'll kind of combine two questions here. Is there anything that you wish we talked about less, or anything you wish we talked about more on the podcast? I can't remember who we're starting with here.
I think I'm supposed to go first.
Okay.
So I don't think this will surprise anyone in this room, but I do not follow sports. So if I had to choose something for you to talk less about, it would be sports. I'm sure that's a very unpopular opinion with your listeners, but that's just me.
I don't know.
We get this feedback pretty regularly, actually.
Yeah. Oh. And one of I think we noticed it most of all when we started putting in the show notes now, there are timestamps for each segment. And someone came up to, I think you, and basically said, I am so thankful that you did that. That now I can just literally listen to the intro, skip the sports segment, and go right to your main topic just by tapping the timestamp.
Yeah, and it hyperlinks it automatically. It's not something like magic that I do.
Magic,
it just automatically happens. It was Morgan. I don't know where he lives.
Morgan, I don't know where he lives.
Morgan, whose last name begins with an M?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Is he in Pennsylvania?
He's Morgan from Pennsylvania. Okay.
He skips the sports segments?
I don't think he skips the sports segments. I think he skips the banter to the sports segment, maybe. The opening banter.
He was an athlete.
Now, see, I'm more hurt by that, to be honest.
But there was one episode.
That's like it's not that I'm not into sports. It's I'm not into you talking about sports.
Yeah.
We're taking that personally, Morgan. Ouch.
But I remember there was an episode where I missed putting in the minutes, but basically, the timestamps. And he actually messaged me on Facebook or texted me, I can't remember which, and be sure to put those in there because I use those.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. All right, Kate?
I would say I love the sports banter with the exception of, hate to tell you this, Sloat, the Mets. I don't want to hear about the Mets.
Oh, no.
I love
what?
I love sports. My least favorite sport is baseball. And I think it takes a lot of patience to watch baseball, and the fact that you have lots to say about baseball shocks me. Sorry, the look of offense on his face
I think Andrea is on board with that.
Yeah. She's agreeing with me in her facial expressions. Sloat, not so much. I grew up in Boston, so I did go watch the Red Sox a few times, and that was actually really fun. But
it's just me talking about it that's really insulting and
it's
boring.
Just the Mets.
Yeah.
It's just the Mets. That's a part that I could do without.
Okay.
But everyone that hates us talking about the Buckeyes is screaming back.
Sure. I'm sure.
Anything more Buckeye talk, less Mets talk.
Anything you wish we talked about more?
Andrea?
Like even just like broad, like when you think about the topics that we do, we tend to have, we talk about travel, we talk about culture, we do series on different biblical and theological topics in ministry.
I think we need more hot takes on politics.
That is 100% not what we need.
No comment.
Not in the least.
Only because I like to bring that anxious look on Matt's face.
Oh, he's smiling, but it doesn't. The rest of his face isn't smiling.
No, not really. Not really. Remember the one rule of the podcast: don't get us fired. So, okay. So, let's ask this one. Is your husband basically the same person at home as our listeners experience on the podcast? Like, is there any gap between those two realities? I think we're back to you first, right?
I would say if you know my husband, this answer won't surprise you, but he is about the most consistent person on the face of the planet. His wardrobe has barely changed in 25 years.
But I'm wearing a sweater today that I got in Edinburgh.
It's Argyle. It's your standard conservative professor wear.
Okay.
You have the dress pants that he is currently wearing are the same. Oh, I think I talked you out of pleats. Yeah, you did start out with pleated khakis, and we've gone to the flat front khakis.
Flat front's the way to go.
Probably.
Yeah, flat front all the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things actually that I love about Matt is his tremendous consistency. And I tell younger women sometimes that can sound boring. It's not at all. It's very comforting, and yeah, you are the same person. Now, I will say you've gotten funnier over the years, and you make me chuckle on the podcast. And a lot of that is because I attribute your humor to our humor. And so it's fun to see you funny on the podcast.
Yeah, this is just a point of disagreement in our marriage that my beloved bride, you think that you made me funny, but I was funny
undeniably
before.
Made you funny.
Yeah, well, okay. That will just agree.
Or at least funnier.
Okay, I can live with that. You made me funnier. I can go with that.
Okay.
Okay.
No fight on the podcast. Another rule of the podcast.
Yeah, nothing
when you have your wife on the podcast, don't fight with her.
That's right. All right, Andrea, what about you?
Maybe this is why Matt and John are such good friends, because I have the exact same answer. I always say that about John, too. He is one of the most consistent people I have ever known. The version of John that you know is the version. There's one version. That's it. So, yes, he's the same person at home.
Yeah.
I like that. You're probably right on the what makes them friends. They're remarkably consistent together.
Yeah. And I always say the same thing that you said, that's one of my favorite things about John, because I know he's going to, I can rely on him. I know what he's going to do. He does the same thing every time. It's great.
All right. So now we know this is your favorite podcast, obviously. But other than this podcast, what are some of the other podcasts you listen to?
Well, I used to listen to the Happy Rant. That's gone. So I've
that
started.
got old Yellard.
Yeah, that got once again. He's really trying to kiss up to the English teacher here. I listened to the Happy Rant. Since that's been gone, I've tried listening to some of Ted Kluck's other podcasts because I do enjoy his sense of humor. I like Ruth Chow Simons. I'm never quite exactly sure how to say her name, but she has a Grace Laced podcast that I enjoy. Over the years, there's been difference that have come in and out. I'll tell you, a new guilty pleasure has been Matt and I love the show Friday Night Lights. We've watched it. How many times have we watched it through?
This is the third time through it we're in right now.
Yes. And I have just discovered that there is a podcast called It's More Than I think it's called It's More Than Football. And it goes episode by episode with two of the actors from Friday Night Lights, the Matt Saracen character and the Jason Street character, and they talk through the episodes. I have never listened to a podcast like that before, but just this past week, I've really gotten into that. So I think that's going to be my in the car.
Okay.
Listen.
All right.
I listen to the Gospel and Life podcast, which I think counts as a podcast. I mean, it's sermons, so it's not a podcast like this one, but it's Timothy Keller sermons. So that's probably one of the podcasts I listen to.
There's a shocker. The wife of John Sloat listens to Timmy K sermons. Shocker.
Yeah.
Who could have predicted that?
Who turned her on to that podcast?
John Sloat.
I have positive influence on my wife. I don't know why this is surprising.
Yes, so that's probably the podcast I listen to the most consistently. I also listen to the Real Life Pharmacology podcast, and I'm sure it's going to be a big hit after I mention it on this podcast.
Yeah,
everyone's going to love it.
It's going to blow up.
Yeah, but if you're a pharmacist or have any interest in pharmacy, it's a really great podcast.
Okay, I got to follow up on that.
Sure.
So what's a common or what's a like typical kind of topic for an episode for that?
Sure. So he chooses a specific drug or drug class, and he walks through what the drug does, what it's used for, side effects, something we call clinical pearls, so things that he has learned in practice. I think he's a long-term care pharmacist, so just things he's learned about that drug, tips and tricks for other pharmacists. The content's really good.
All right. Yeah. What's the name of that again?
The Real Life Pharmacology podcast.
Okay. I have to add that to the rotation.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a pharmacist.
You were listening to that podcast the other day. We're in the middle of home renovation galore right now. And the fire department that's just on the other side of the parking lot. I don't know if listeners can hear that.
It's pretty faint. I don't know if they can hear that.
Okay. There's fire truck noises in the background. It makes me nervous about it.
I thought those were instrument noises. You think those are fire truck noises?
Yeah, it sounds like an instrument to me.
Oh, they might be downstairs.
They're practicing music downstairs.
We've had this problem
that's
before.
That's an odd fire truck if that's a fire truck.
Well, I thought maybe they weren't doing maintenance on their horns or something. But that might be the case.
Because they blow
as
horns
well.
when they're coming these days?
They have there's a horn. There's like a horn that makes the noises,
we might need
right?
to do some research on this.
Okay. Well,
we didn't bring you on the podcast to poke fun at John. Actually, we did. But
yeah,
absolutely. We're in the middle of home renovation.
Renos, yeah.
And you were listening to that podcast, and he said something funny, and you started laughing as you're listening, and I tried to get you to explain it to me, and I just didn't understand it.
Pharmacist humor.
Yeah, pharmacist humor.
The rest of us are below
jokes.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. So, inevitably, when they make the Various and Sundry podcast movie, who would you want to play your husband in the movie? So, I can't remember where we're starting here.
I mean, obviously someone devilishly handsome. And I mean, I'm stuck between Brad Pitt and, Matthew McConaughey, another Matthew.
All right.
His hair is a little curly. You're not nowhere near curly.
I have no curly hair.
Yeah, so maybe that wouldn't be a face match. Maybe more the Brad Pitt. Just really handsome.
The resemblances are striking.
You and Brad Pitt are about the same age, aren't you? Gotta be.
I don't know. Does Brad Pitt?
He's a little older.
Does Brad Pitt work out as much as you do?
I'm sure he works out much more than I do.
I'm just
John's doing quick research on the age of Brad Pitt. Yes,
I think he is our age because Jennifer Aniston is 53. I just saw that.
59.
I told you.
No way. He's 59.
According to the Google search.
Well, Matt Harmon is a young, hotter Brad Pitt.
You're a younger version of Brad Pitt.
Yeah, obviously. I've been told that frequently by people, not my wife. So. All right, Andrea, what about you? Who's going to play John?
I have heard other people say that John looks like Michael Bublé, who, as far as I'm aware, has not done any acting. Maybe he has, but obviously he's more of a singer. But I could see it. I think John does kind of look like Michael Bublé, so that's what I'd go with.
48 years old, Michael Bublé.
Okay, which is a good bit older than you.
Is a good bit. Yeah. Good bit older than me.
I just Googled it, and I do see some of the resemblance.
Yeah. I've gotten that.
I mean, his hair is darker, but
mostly since college, I've gotten Michael Bublé. He's Canadian, so that there's some issues there.
Sure.
But
You
overall, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, are you trying to alienate our Canadian listeners?
I might be Canadian listener. I'm sure they'll say I'm sorry and forgive me. But
who knows? Tim Challies could be listening and totally offended now.
That could be true, but he's American, I believe, isn't he?
No.
Is he Canadian?
You don't even know who the Canadians are.
Well, I know he lives in Toronto, but isn't he
He's Canadian.
Is he like native-born Canadian?
I have no idea.
That could be Googleable. Is that a word?
He stayed at our house and we didn't ask him this question.
You didn't. You guys don't do citizenship interviews?
We don't.
People come stay in your basement?
We let people through the door better than
Yeah, well, I mean we
don't practice closed door borders.
You're nearing politics.
Yeah, we're inching closer and closer here.
He's looking more and more nervous.
Definitely. Okay, time for the moment of truth here. How often do you listen to the podcast? I can't remember who we're starting with here, so.
I think it's me. I listen sporadically.
Okay.
I'm probably not your most consistent listener. Certainly not as consistent as my mom and dad are.
Dave, Dad being
Dave
David.
and
Dave and Kim.
/ David. Yes, and Kim and Dave.
Also known as Kimberly. Yeah.
But I do pay attention to the topics that you pick. If it's a topic that I think is really interesting, I'll definitely make a point of listening right away when it drops. Also, if I know that John has been talking about me, I will listen because I have to make sure I'm accurately represented.
Fair.
Yeah. Have to make sure.
Do you
we
feel
have
like
some
you...
disagreements about whether she's been accurately represented.
Oh,
yeah.
Should we delve into this marital issue?
Is that a post-pod conversation?
No.
I'm not aware of too many falsehoods. The only thing that I think he might have said last week, and I don't know what he said, but I'm not sure it was accurate. Did he say that I'm listening to Travis Kelce's podcast?
Oh, yeah, that was there.
Yeah, I am not doing that.
So. Okay. Did you?
Yeah,
I think you said that.
Yeah, that came up in the Jets beating the Eagles.
Yeah.
And the interception at the end of the game, Jason Kelce.
The brother of Travis Kelce.
Right, tackles the guy. And Andrew looks at me and goes, I listened to his podcast.
When she's not listening to the pharmacy podcast.
Right.
The real pharmacologist.
And she said that, and I started laughing. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. But then you clarified that you scroll through clips of it on Instagram because they're talking about Taylor Swift.
Okay.
And so it pops up on her feed of some kind, and you hear it that way.
I thought you were going to say because they talk about the different medications that they're on, and
they probably are in a cocktail of medications.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am sure. So maybe there'll be a crossover event with the real pharmacologist. In
a crossover event.
That would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
All right, we gotta start wrapping this.
Wait! You did. Are you going to ask me?
Oh, I missed you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you chimed in.
Might be your biggest fan, and yet I was almost missed out on saying that. I feel a little competitive actually with Mark from Indiana about who listens to it first.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because otherwise I was going to bring it up.
Yeah, Mark from Indiana says that he thinks he's the first, which might be true because he's a pastor with all that flexible time on his hands.
With all that free time.
Yeah.
All that free time pastoring provides.
I mean, that's probably all he does is listen to podcasts,
that's
right?
That's
Mark from Indiana, I don't at all think that's all that you do.
Yeah.
Let me be clear.
And reading Spurgeon. So.
Yeah, exactly. On his Spurgeon pillow. Anyway, the only thing that keeps me from the podcast is two things. One, when John forgets to post it, which I then have to.
That's probably once a quarter.
I've texted you though. Have I not?
At least once. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't happen often.
I don't know. That's once a quarter.
Think twice a year then?
2 to 3 times a year, probably.
Okay.
I feel like,
You're being more generous to me than I am. I thank you.
I just have to sometimes. Yeah, it hasn't happened a lot, but you have gotten a text from me.
Yeah, at least once or twice.
And the school day, those darn kids, they kind of get in the way of my podcast listening. And so I generally listen to it on Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
Right. I will say I have gotten texts from Pastor Mark about our podcast at like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Already responding to it?
And it drops at 1. It's a 45-minute episode typically, so he's like, yeah.
He's on it.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Well, I'm with him in spirit, but sometimes life and kids gets in the way.
Yeah. Speaking of, I skipped a question here. Do you have a favorite, what we'll call a favorite character on the podcast? Meaning, we refer to people like Mark in Indiana, Zach in Ohio, Steve in Ohio, those sorts of people. Lee in Indiana, Danny in Indiana. Danny in Ohio? Actually, we have 2 Dannys.
We have 2 Dannys in Ohio.
Yeah. We have to go Danny in Columbus, out him in terms of city. So, do you have a favorite or one that maybe you like, you enjoy hearing us talk about the most?
I mean, Nate from Ohio. He's got the most undeniably objective strong opinions.
Mr.
Which
Objectivity.
I will say, when they're not directed at you, are very welcome and interesting. When it's directed at me, I'm less inclined to want to hear him speak. But he definitely has. I mean, I think he'd make a great podcast guest, even. So, something to think about, guys.
Has he ever asked to be on the podcast?
I don't think he's ever asked. No.
He might just like to stand back and critique. Let's be honest.
Maybe he could do like the wrap-up show.
He can do the Cleveland show
about the show where he comments on it.
Yeah.
Sort of like my Friday Night Lights podcast.
Exactly.
But he gives his running commentary. That would be gold.
That would be perfect.
I know a lot of so there's a couple sports radio shows that I listen to that have like the guys that run the back room, that run all the lights and the cameras and everything. They do a podcast about the show that day, and it's well listened to.
Why haven't we started that?
Well, we need to get Nate on board. That's the... I think Nate,
I'm talking about a show about all the people that do the lights and everything behind the scenes. Why don't they have a podcast about that?
They're just lazy, I guess.
Obviously. All right, Andrea, what about you?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I have a favorite.
Okay, that's fair.
Of the ones that you mentioned, Lee in Indiana is in my life group, so I'm going to pick him.
Okay.
We have a couple Lees in Indiana.
We actually have two Lees in
there's
Indiana.
more?
There's two.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all right. No.
We've mentioned that Lee in Indiana, though.
Oh,
For
okay.
sure.
Good.
And
Yeah.
I know he was looking forward to today's episode.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So I'll
We just
pick
left
him.
lunch with him.
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You were with your, I sort of recall these community groups.
Community group, yep.
Yeah. So was there some tangible buzz about this? I mean...
Well, we pieced out a couple minutes early, so we announced that was the reason. And there was a little bit of buzz.
Because there was some buzz in our life group, our community group as well. About
we were trying to keep it a secret to like add to the buzz, but loose lips, Kate here may have revealed.
Sunk that
in my
ship,
exuberant joy, I may have revealed more than I should have.
That's all right. Okay. Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Ready to move on?
I think we're ready.
Okay, so our lovely wives are going to stay with us for the rest of the show here, so they may chime in as well. But time now for...
Since I didn't get to be on the sports segment.
Yeah, there you go. Time now for This Day in Sports History.
All right, This Day in Sports History, October 31st. Happy Halloween, happy Reformation Day.
Shame
all
on
the
you.
above.
Reformation Day.
He's just trying to reach out to all of our listeners.
Anyway, we're just moving on.
I mean, if this wasn't episode 200, we would have done a Reformation Day episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe you should do one next time.
That's a week late.
Or there's always next year.
That's true.
1943, Washington Redskins Sammy Baugh passes for 6 touchdowns versus...
I think that's Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. No vowels there.
Yeah, weird.
No
Not
vowels
Bacon.
there.
Yeah, 6 touchdown passes.
6 touchdown passes. I mean, for 1943 as well.
Yeah.
I mean, was that the day the forward pass was invented?
Shortly after, I would think.
All right, 1994, American tennis star Venus Williams makes her professional debut as a 14-year-old with a 6-3, 6-4 win over former NCAA champion and world number 58 Sean Stafford in the Bank of the West Classic in Oakland, California.
14 years old.
That's impressive.
Playing professional tennis, yes.
1999, Finnish McLaren driver Mika Häkkinen, don't know if I got that right. Häkkinen wins season-ending Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka to clinch his second straight F1 World Drivers' Championship, wins by 2 points. I don't know how you win by 2 points in a driving competition from Irishman Eddie Irvine.
Okay.
Eddie Irvine, 2 points. 1999, Tim Couch completes a desperation 56-yard pass to Kevin Johnson with no time on the clock to give the expansion Cleveland Browns their first victory in a 21-16 win over Narlands.
There you go. Yep.
And finally, 2020, New Zealand Rugby Union team routs Australia 43-5 in Sydney to retain Bledisloe Cup. I have no idea. For 18 straight series, the Wallabies.
It's the Wallabies. Dude.
Wallabies.
Clearly, you need some of my help.
Oh boy!
Maybe we should have the English teacher read the read the segment.
Reading out loud skills.
I know some people listen to the podcast
just
for me to butcher these words.
Yes.
Largest ever defeat by the All Blacks.
That's a team
the name
name
of the team?
Yes.
Yeah, the team name, the All Blacks.
Just to clarify. I
the New Zealand national team, right?
Yeah. Just to clarify. All right, so do we have a consensus here on who we're going to go with? We've got Sammy Baugh, we've got Venus Williams, we've got Mika Hakkinen, we've got Tim Couch, and we've got the New Zealand Rugby Union. Who do you like?
I've been to Tim Couch's hometown before.
Is it in Kentucky?
Hazard, Kentucky.
Okay, there you go.
Like Dukes of Hazzard, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Tim Couch fan.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to go Tim Couch.
Ladies?
I mean, there's only one woman on the list, right? I mean, I guess some of these names I'm not sure about, but Venus Williams.
It's the only name I recognize, so that would be my
Venus
vote.
Williams it is then.
I think you just got outvoted. There you go.
That's fine.
Venus Williams it is. All right. One thing you liked. Let's start with who do you want to start with? We are including our lovely wives.
Yeah, why don't we
start with Kate?
Kate, go for it, because I haven't come up with one yet.
Okay, we'll give you some time.
Through one.
Classic.
The one thing that I liked this week, I just finished the devotion Pilgrim, 25 Ways God's Character Leads Us Onward. It's by Ruth Chow Simons. Again, I'm not always sure how to pronounce her name. I have read her other devotionals and really love them. They're a good mix of very theologically rich, but also they very real life and relatable. And so my life group ladies, all of us have a copy of it and have been reading through it and journaling through it. And I've just finished it this week. So love it. Highly recommend.
Okay. All right, Andrea, you're up.
All right. My favorite thing this week is that John made it home. So he travels about 25% of the time for his job. So he flew out last Sunday, a week ago today, and he got home yesterday. Unfortunately, due to some delays with flights, he got home at 4:30 in the morning. But he made it. So I'm glad he's here.
Yeah, sleep deprived and tired.
Yeah.
Still. We mentioned that at the top of the show. We
did.
We didn't follow up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my one thing is on this most recent trip, I usually pick an audiobook and just sort of blitz through it. I read a work audiobook called Fanatical Prospecting. And so it's like basically how to be successful in sales and strategies for calling people, getting people to answer the phone, getting appointments, things like that. It's not totally one-to-one applicable to my job, but it's pretty applicable.
Yeah.
So that was Fanatical Prospecting, if you want to check it out.
All right. I'm not going to lie. I probably won't. But
that's okay. Yeah, it's
or
very
the
much
pharmaceutical podcast.
Yeah. He's more likely to check out.
I am more likely to check that out than an audiobook on sales. So I tell you what. So mine is the start of the Grace College basketball season. We went to the opening game for the Grace College men's basketball team. They enter the year ranked number 2 in the NAIA rankings.
So it's going to be exciting.
And they won both their games this weekend. And they are playing an exhibition game against Purdue this week on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a ticket. I'm going.
You're going.
Well, I'm efforting.
Okay.
Getting a ticket. I am working a connection.
Okay.
So.
Can I add to what was fun about that? We got to go to that game with Jordan from Indiana and Micah from Indiana.
Oh.
And watching little kids watch sports, super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of fun. All right, John.
You survived.
I mean, we haven't stopped.
Almost.
We have not hit
Wrap it up quick.
Yeah. Wow. So 200 episodes, John. So before I do my traditional close, I think we should just say a thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate you. We enjoy the fact that you are even remotely interested in listening to us babble on about various things.
We just jaw on about various topics. And thank you to our wives for joining us in studio.
Thank you. This was great. And
thank you for for allowing me to live my dream.
There you go. There you go.
Now answering what's Kate's biggest accomplishment?
Getting on the Various Sundry
podcast. Yes.
Forget it, boys. You're number 2 now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, All right. We have talked sports. We have talked our wives and getting to know them a little bit better. We have talked Venus Williams. We have talked about stuff that we like this week, about a devotional, about the fact that John made it back from his travels, and about an audiobook. I'm struggling to remember this. And then, of course, the start of
it was that memorable.
It's college basketball season.
You know, not everything can be memorable when I pick these things.
Especially 200 times. I mean, come on. And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.